Greetings, it is I. Is my hair okay? I know it's a weird thing. It's a very self-indulgent thing to ask, but it's honestly a pretty valid question considering I just came back from a walk along the beach. Wasn't exactly like on sand or anything, but it was close enough to the water where the wind was pretty strong. I don't want to look like I'm absolutely crazy before I talk for a few minutes about life, about what is up. And one of the things that's up actually is I came across a pretty amazing show on Netflix, like most of you probably have because of the whole corona thing. So that show is actually called Midnight Gospel. And Midnight Gospel, for those who don't know, which I'm actually very curious to see how many people who are watching this video have at least heard of that show or have watched it. But the show is about a interdimensional being, so to speak. This being named Clancy. And I say being because he's not human. He kind of looks like an alien. It's just this being, for all intents and purposes, who he has access, illegal access, I believe, to a universe/world simulator. And so what he does with this is he'll go to different worlds that piques his interest for the sake of finding somebody to interview for his podcast that gets broadcast throughout all of space across like what I would assume to be an infinite number of people. So that's his thing. And this show is so absolutely unique in that when you're watching an episode, you could actually just be listening to the episode, and the experience you would get, I mean, it's not going to be similar, or not going to be the same, but it would be similar. You can listen to these episodes without watching and still get the gist about each episode. But it explores concepts like the meaning of life, about death, about relationships, about emotion. It's a very deep dive into like what makes people and what connects us throughout the whole world. And it sounds pretty heavy, and that's because it is. And as heavy as it is on subject matter, the visuals of this show are pretty crazy. I've seen headlines. I haven't really read the articles, but I've seen headlines from like pretty renowned websites and companies that describe this show basically as like a trip, even if you're not tripping. And if you watch even like a minute or two of this show, Midnight Gospel, you'll definitely know what I'm talking about. And what's interesting too is if anyone here is familiar with the Joe Rogan Experience, he has a particular guest on pretty regularly. It's one of his closer friends, and his name is Duncan Trussell, who from my understanding is a comedian, yeah, but also a very deep thinker. And that's definitely not doing him justice. Personally, he's probably my favorite guest ever on the Joe Rogan Experience. Every time he's on, the effect that he has, it's so unique. Like there truly is no one like Duncan Trussell. He's a very kind human being, but also at the same time, like he's a very aware, like a hyper-aware person. He understands people, but as much as he understands people, he's also kind of perplexed at some of the things that goes on in the world. So he is the creator, the founder of this show, and he also plays the voice of Clancy, the main character in this show. And what also is unique, as if everything I've already said isn't unique enough, is I believe the audio portions of this show, it's an animated show, I believe part of the audio is actually taken from podcasts that Duncan Trussell has done with particular guests that in this show end up playing specific characters. So like I said, well, maybe I didn't say it, but each episode he picks one world that he goes to, and he gets thrown into there via his own illegal simulator, and he meets with a particular character that piques his interest, and he'll have a microphone with him. He'll usually ask like, "Hey, can I record you for a podcast?" I think he calls it something like a space cast or something like that, but it's a podcast. So, and he does that. There's usually some other bigger thing going on with the character, like some problem or some process that they're going through, but it's almost like each episode, that person, whoever he's interviewing, is sort of detached from what's going on in their reality, because they're playing the role of like letting this unbiased person, Clancy, letting them know what their experience in life has been. And yeah, I mean, each character each character is played by somebody that, again, I believe Duncan Trussell is actually interviewed. So when you watch it, some of the things that are happening, it doesn't really pertain or is even really acknowledged for the most part in the audio, in like the conversation these characters are having with each other. Like, I'll just say in the first episode, Dr. Drew Pinsky's in it, and he plays the president of the U.S. in a world that's overrun by zombies. So he's just like nonchalantly like blowing the brains out of all these zombies as they're, you know, pretty much like inches away from being eaten by these zombies, by being bitten. So they're like flirting with disaster, but the whole time it's just this calm, casual conversation about the effects that drugs have on people. That was a big part of that first episode. But it's such a unique idea of a show, and the experience both visually and like audibly, like with the conversations you're hearing you're basically listening to a real podcast, but it's being played out by these completely like fantasy-based characters in this visually stunning and just crazy way. And that's probably the best that I could explain this show. So go check that out if you get a moment. You don't even need to be on drugs to feel like you're on drugs when you're watching this show. And even if you don't watch it, you just listen to it, you're still getting a pretty valuable, unique experience. So Midnight Gospel, I would check it out. I love it. I'm almost done with the first season. There's only one season out right now, but I really hope it comes back for more, because it's definitely a wild ride into the minds of several pretty interesting people, and through those people you get more of a perspective on people as a whole. So I value this show. I'm going to keep watching it. So yeah, that's what's going on. That's all I really wanted to talk about today. Peace.